I don't know where you might be watching this podcast video from today, nor do I know what it's been like in your part of the world, but here in the suburbs of Chicago, Illinois, we have been blessed with some really beautiful, albeit I think unseasonably warm and sunny days over the last, week or so. Those warm temperatures have been such a relief as we have come out of a much more normal Illinois winter season this year than we have had in recent years. We've flirted this year with some record lows. We even started our winter season with an early Thanksgiving weekend whopper snowfall. All of that being said, when the first few warmer, sunnier days arrive, it's always a different feeling around here. It's almost kind of like that scene from the movie The Wizard of Oz when the mayor of Oz announces officially that the Wicked Witch is dead, and he has that speech. He says, "Let the joyous news be spread. The wicked old witch at last is dead." And there's this feeling around here. It's like, let the joyous news be spread. That wicked old winter at last is melting away. I don't know. If you know anything about the Midwest, you'll know that when spring comes, when the spring warm weather comes, it's important that that warm weather doesn't come too quickly. When the temperatures soar rapidly, especially here in northern Illinois, they usually do so because warm fronts from the southwest, from Arizona, California, come rapidly on high pressure systems. Now that's good news for us on one hand because it means warm air is coming our way. But when that air suddenly meets stationary boundary fronts of cold air masses that hover over the Mississippi River and Lake Michigan, it's a perfect setup for severe weather when those two things clash. And that's actually what's predicted to be on tap for us this evening and even into tomorrow morning. All weekend long, the weather reporters have been warning for the potential that we have for strong thunderstorms, for gully washer type rains, for hail, even the threat of EF2 and above tornadoes. Dangerous weather could possibly be on tap for us. Now, on one hand, that is just part and parcel of living in this part of the country in the upper Midwest. Often we have these type of weather scenarios dependent upon how the seasons change. But on the other hand, there's always that part of a person that no matter how long they have lived here in the Midwest, they always perk their ears up a little bit, tune in a little closer to the TV or the radio when there's a threat of dangerous weather. Threats of danger. That got me thinking. Does God's word have something to say to us about danger lurking for us, about the threat of danger? That's our focus for today here on Monday Musings. Words of warning about danger coming for us. I'm Pastor Jeremy Heitkam, and this is Monday Musings for Monday, March 9th, 2026. I am so glad that you are here with me today. Well, in his first letter to the church, as the Apostle Peter was writing specifically to the elders and the shepherds of the church, he took a moment to step aside from his training up of the leadership of the church to speak to the entire church, old and young, elders and lay people alike. And he wrote in 1 Peter chapter 5, verses 8 and 9, he says, "Be alert and of sober mind. Your enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion, looking for someone to devour. Resist him, standing firm in the faith, because you know that the family of believers throughout the world is undergoing the same kind of sufferings." Now, this was certainly a word of warning about danger that is coming, danger that is sort of lurking around in the shadows, lurking, eager to pounce on God's people. What's interesting, though, is that this is not the only time in the church, this is not the only time in the letters to the church, that the church is called to this sort of sobriety and alertness. In fact, many biblical scholars agree that James, the disciple James, is actually making the same call in James chapter 4, verses 6 through 10. He says, "Submit yourselves then to God and resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Come near to God, and he will come near to you. Wash your hands, you sinners, and purify your hearts, you double-minded. Grieve, mourn, wail. Change your laughter to mourning and your joy to gloom. Humble yourselves before the Lord, and he will lift you up." Now, the idea behind the argument that says that James and Peter are offering the same words of warning is pretty simple. When it comes to our enemy, the evil one, Satan, he is not just one kind of danger. He is not just one kind of enemy. He is a myriad of different kinds of dangers and enemies that lure us, that try to trap us. In the earliest days of the church, he was using dangers like poverty and oppression and class warfare. He still uses many of those today. But then James points out he wasn't just using those things. He was also using things like persecution. In the early days, Paul was persecuting the church, murdering Christians. These were things that were trying to tempt believers away from God. Now, of course, these dangers that both Peter and James were talking about, they came alongside Satan's other normal kind of dangers that he uses, that he loves to use, like sexual immorality, greed, and especially lying, fear, anxiety, worry, and doubt. Dr. Warren Wiersbe, he so rightly describes this formidable enemy that we have in Satan when he writes this. He says, "Satan is a dangerous enemy. He is a serpent who can bite us when we least expect it. He is a destroyer and an accuser. He has a great power and intelligence and a host of demons who assist him in his attacks against God's people. He's a formidable enemy, and we must never joke about him. We must never ignore him or underestimate his ability. We must be vigilant and have our minds under control when it comes to our conflict with Satan." I was in the car with my wife and a friend this weekend when the conversation we were having actually turned back to the topic of that severe weather that the local weather forecasters have been warning us about all weekend long. Our friend said that the weather app on their phone showed less than a 10% chance of even getting any rain. So, where's the threat of this severe weather come from? At the same time, my wife pulled up her weather app and it showed a greater than 50% chance of severe storms. It was then that our friend said, "We really can't trust these weather apps, can we?" Now, there has long been a joke, right, about meteorology and weather forecasting, that the task of predicting weather patterns is the only job where a person can be wrong 90% of the time and still keep their job. Listen, weather predictions, they may or may not be reliable. But there is one word of warning. There is one word of prediction. There is one place where many predictions and forecasts and prophecies have already are even now and will in the future come true. That one reliable source is God's word, always. And the warning that God's word gives to us is very, very simple. It says, watch out, wake up, be alert and sober. Satan is dangerous, and he is waiting for you around this corner and that corner and every corner, in the shadows, in the darkness. Ephesians chapter 6, the Apostle Paul describes for us the armor of God, which, you remember, it begins with the helmet, goes all the way down to the sandals. He says we have to put this on so that we are prepared as we go into battle against Satan, because he lurks with his evil and sneaky schemes. He's always scheming against us. In John 8, the Apostle John draws us back to the truth, the one truth of God, because the danger of Satan is that he is the father of all lies. Jesus said that when Satan speaks, he speaks always in lies, because that's his native tongue. He is now a liar, has always been a liar, will always be a liar. So we have to be prepared for him. Luke 4, Jesus reminds us that we should serve the Lord our God and worship him only. What's the greatest way to remain alert? To be alert and sober against Satan, against his evil schemes, against his evil, horrible, terrible plans for us. We have to stay close to God. We have to worship him and him alone. So friends, I guess what I'm saying for today is this. If you happen to be in Northern Illinois, if you happen to see this today, Monday, March 9th, 2026, as we so often say around here at this time of the year, stay weather aware. The conditions seem ripe for storms to come. We don't know what's coming for sure, but it looks like there's danger coming. However, I can say this with 100% surety, with 100% clarity. No matter where you are today, from Maine to California, from Jamaica to outer Mongolia, stay Satan aware. Because the conditions are always ripe for Satan to cause a storm in your life. Conditions are always favorable for danger when Satan is on the prowl. And there is one thing that we know. He is always on the prowl. So brothers and sisters, friends, let's be alert and of sober mind. Let's submit ourselves to God, and in doing so resist Satan so that he will flee from us. Let's dress ourselves from head to toe in the armor of God so that we might be fitted and ready for battle when he comes. Let's lean on the truth of God and reject Satan's lies, and let's stay close to God and worship him alone. In doing this, we then stand the best chance possible of frustrating our enemy, of running the race before us with endurance and winning that prize that has been set out before us. Thanks so much for joining me again for this episode of Monday Musings, the weekly devotional series from Cornerstone Faith Community Church here in Bloomingdale, Illinois. If you haven't had a chance to click that subscribe button, we'd sure like you to do that so that every time we go live for a worship service or one of these episodes drops, you'll be notified of it immediately. We'd also love to have you join us for worship Sunday mornings, 10 a.m. Here at the church, or online, of course, via YouTube. Wednesday evenings for Bible study, 6:30 p.m. here at the church. Until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of his hand. Thanks for joining me.